He knows I'm short, that's why he did that. In my first year out of college, I had 5 different jobs, and I was totally unqualified for all of them because I majored in philosophy and minored in Italian. I was unqualified to work in a mental hospital, a wealth management firm, be a special ed teacher, and use dangerous equipment in the custom framing department at a craft store. But the only one of those jobs for which I was dangerously unqualified was marketing and sales for a medical device company. It was a small family company. The entire office was contained in one room: reception, billing, inventory, shipping, marketing, all in one room. All of the men in the company were Orthodox Jewish brothers, and all of the women in the company were Gentile, middle-aged divorcees, and then there was me. We celebrated more divorces during my time there than we did birthdays. Birthdays only get cake, but divorces come with a bottle of champagne from the boss. Yes. During lunch, I often helped the new divorcees, that's a great word, divorcees, fine-tune their online dating profiles by picking flattering pictures and replying to messages from men. There was only so much I could do, though. One of my coworkers wanted her username to be September Ladyfire because her birthday was in September, and she thought it sounded sexy. I told her Ladyfire sounded like she had a burning infection on her lady parts, but she didn't agree. My official title was marketing director, which is a thing people actually get college degrees in. Of course, I had never taken a business class, much less a marketing class. I designed catalogs and brochures of our products and coordinated photo shoots of hundreds of surgical instruments. I faked my way through Photoshop. I created their website, which is another thing people have degrees in. I stumbled through search engine optimization, which is how you get yourself to the top of the search results on Google, I think. I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but I wouldn't really know. One of my main duties was writing instruction manuals for our surgical instruments. You might be wondering, how does a 22-year-old philosophy major with no medical background become such an expert in spinal surgery that she can then instruct others? By watching YouTube videos of people using our instruments. Please appreciate how horrifying that is. Then those godforsaken instruction manuals were translated into 26 different languages to be distributed all over the world. We used an outside translator for the first draft, but whenever we made tweaks to the English version, I personally updated all 26 of the other languages using Google Translate because they didn't want to pay for another translation. Yeah, I was cutting and pasting Chinese characters and Turkish words from Google Translate into these instructions, and people ostensibly used them to perform surgery. Somehow I had no qualms about this at the time, and it's only in hindsight that I regret being a part of this. Another part of my job was going to trade shows. I used to be a hot 22-year-old, and since I was the only woman under the age of 45 at the company, I was taken to trade shows to catcall at male doctors and lure them to our booth. Once I seduced the doctors over to our booth, I was instructed to get them one of the male sales guys to come explain how the instruments worked. As a young feminist, this really pissed me off. Also, by this point, I was pretty cocky because I wrote the instruction manuals. So I knew how the instruments worked, and I found it pretty sexist that I wasn't trusted to explain them, which I will remind you is ridiculous because I am a totally unqualified person to explain spinal surgery to anyone, let alone a room full of surgeons. While working at this job, I applied to law school. I got in, and I committed to go that fall. I was dreading telling them that I was leaving because I really loved the people there, and I didn't like having difficult conversations. I knew for months that I was leaving, and I hadn't had the nerve to tell them. And then one day, the head of the company called me into the office and told me that they were very pleased with my performance at trade shows, and they wanted to put me on a special track. They were going to start sending me into surgery to shadow our sales guys as they showed the doctors how to use our instruments. Their eventual goal was for me to be comfortable enough to go into the operating rooms on my own and demonstrate the procedures. No. For the love of God, why would anyone allow me, a 22-year-old with no medical background, slice open and spread the ribs of an actual, living, unconscious, and unsuspecting person? This was the inspiration I needed to finally tell them I was leaving at the end of the month. So despite showing excellent promise for a career in the operating room, no one ever had to wake up from anesthesia to find out that a philosophy major drilled screws into their spine. And for that, we should all be grateful. Thank you.